How's it going, guys? I'm John, and in this video I'm going to show you how to install Oxford heated grips. Before we get started, a few quick notes about this installation. First of all, I'm installing the new Oxford Heaters Evo heated grips, but the installation process is the same for Oxford's other heated grips, such as their premium. If you want to see what's different about these grips and what comes in the box, I have a video on that you can check up here or in the description below. And I'll be installing these on a 2018 Ninja 1000 or Z1000SX. So you could follow the process exactly if you have a 2017 through 2019 Ninja 1000 or Z1000SX. But these grips are a universal part. So regardless of what motorcycle you have, the process should be either the same or very similar for you. All right, so to get started, first what we're going to do is remove the bar end weights on both sides, and then we're going to take off the factory grips. To do this, you'll just need a number 3 Phillips screwdriver or JIS screwdriver. And these are kind of tough to get off, so you're going to want to have something that has some leverage to it. Now we're going to take off the factory grips, and you can do this either by getting an air compressor underneath and trying to blow them off, but what I'm going to do is just cut these off because I don't plan on reusing them for anything. All right, so unfortunately on the throttle side, on the throttle tube, you can see that there's these little ridges, and there's also this kind of lip that's on the end of the throttle tube. And so you're going to have to either file or sand this down. I'm going to use a Dremel tool on this, and then I might switch to sandpaper, something a little bit lighter for these little ridges. All right, so I've got the throttle tube sanded down. I wasn't sure how difficult that was going to be, but it turned out it was really easy. I did use the Dremel on the ridge on the end, and I tried a few different things on the throttle tube itself, but I found that just a simple flat file like this, or even something like this on a multi-tool, just worked really well, and it made it really easy to sand those ridges down so that everything was level, and then I just went over it really quickly with a piece of sandpaper. The next step is going to be to do a test fit of the grip, and we're going to start on the throttle side. And the one thing that you're going to want to watch out for, and this is especially true on the throttle side because the grip rotates, is that this portion of the grip where the cable comes out doesn't interfere with the brake lever, either when the throttle is fully closed or when it's fully open or anywhere in between. So we're going to slide the grip on, and then we might need to adjust the rotation of this a little bit to make sure that everything fits correctly. Now for a starting point in terms of how you get these oriented on the bar, where it says Oxford, that's going to face forward, and I don't know if you can see it here, there's a little arrow, and this should point straight down when the throttle is closed. So that's what we're going to start with, and then we might need to adjust it from there to get a good fit. So you can see how the throttle grip is installed and how everything is oriented. I'm going to have the cable run down and then over here. So when you open the throttle, you can see that there's no restriction on the movement because of the cable, and the cable doesn't interfere with the brake lever at all. All right, so now we're going to install the grip on the left side, and I'm basically just going to try to get it on there so that it matches the orientation of the grip over on the right side, on the throttle side. And then you'll still need to double check that this piece here where the cable comes out doesn't interfere with the clutch lever. And what I did on that side, and I'm going to do the same thing on this side, is I use a little hairspray and spray it inside the grip, and you can spray it on the bar so that helps it slide on. I wasn't sure if I was going to need to use the super glue when I put these on, but the grips are going on so tight that I have no concerns about the grips slipping, even in wet conditions or anything like that. So I'm just going to do the same thing, spray a little hairspray in here, and then slide it on. All right, so I've got the left side grip on, and hopefully this was the hardest part of the process because this thing was extremely difficult to get on. I used hairspray on the bar as a little bit of a lubricant, and I just found that by twisting the grip and then pushing really hard with each twist, I was able to make incremental progress and eventually get it on. And I've got everything lined up, and then now what I need to do is shorten the grip a little bit. And these grips are designed to be shortened, and I talk about this in my video talking more specifically about these heated grips, but they come in a couple different models, and each of those are a different length. So this touring version is 120 millimeters long, and it can be shortened either by removing this outer rib or also the rib and then this the circle right here, and you can see there's two lines where they can be cut. And the heating element doesn't go all the way to the end, so they're actually designed to be shortened a little bit. So on this install, in order to get everything to fit, I just need to trim off this little flange right here on the end. And we'll do the same on the throttle side. Next, we'll put the bar end weights back on. Next, we're going to mount the controller on the included bracket. You don't need to use the bracket. It also includes a sticky pad if you just want to stick this somewhere on the bike. But on the Ninja 1000, this will actually work for us really well. All right, now we're going to make a quick modification to the power cable. This is designed to be hooked up to your battery terminals, and there's an inline 5-amp fuse, and then this will connect to the controller. But the Ninja 1000 actually has a fused wired connection already for heated grips. And so we don't need to run the wire all the way to the battery terminal. The connection is up at the front of the bike. And so what we're going to do is just cut the wire here about 8 inches back from the connector. We don't need any of this, and we don't need the fuse because the Ninja's already set up with a fuse for heated grips. One thing you want to pay attention to is keep track of which wire of these two wires is for the positive and which one is for the negative. I'm not sure if it's the same on all of them, but on mine, the positive side has printing on the wire and the negative side doesn't have any printing. So when we cut these off, you can still keep track of which side is the positive and negative. Okay, so now we're going to hook up the bullet connectors to this power wire. On the bike itself, the positive lead is the female and the negative is the male. And so because these connect together like this, we're going to put the male bullet connector onto the positive wire of the power connector. So I'm just using a 14 to 16 gauge bullet connector with a crimp tool. All right, we're all set with the power connector. Next thing we're going to do is connect the controller, and we're going to mount it right here on the clutch lever. So to take these two bolts out, you'll just need a 5mm wrench. All right, so here's a closer look at the front plate of your clutch mount. And Oxford includes some longer bolts with these little spacers right here. You can see the little cylinder. And what that's going to do is, because the front of the clutch mount has this curve to it, the spacers will sit up here and give a little bit of clearance so that the controller mount doesn't have to bend around this curve, so it'll give it a nice flat surface to mount to. So you're going to use these bolts and spacers from the Oxford kit. So those little cylindrical spacers go between the mounting bracket for the controller and the actual front plate for the clutch mount. All right. The next thing I'm going to do is remove this side fairing here, and that's because the power that I'm going to tap into for the heated grips, the connection is down here. If you're looking for any directions on how to do that, there's a video linked up above and down in the description below. I ended up taking off the full side fairing just to give you a better view of what we're working with. All right, before the next step, when we get everything wired up, I want to show you how I have all the different wires routed for each of the different components. So starting with the left grip, I have the wire coming down underneath the switchgear, and then it joins the wires for the switchgear. Comes back around, and then it might be kind of hard to see, but there's a metal wire, basically a wire holder that all of these wires run through. And so the wire from the grip follows this, and it goes through that wire holder. And then there's a second wire holder that it's going to be hard to see. It's just behind this fork leg, and it's back here, and there's another group of wires that run through another wire holder. So actually all of the wires end up coming through this wire holder over here. So now for the controller, it's mounted on this bracket. The wire just goes straight down, and just like the grip, it joins the bundle of wires coming out of the switchgear, and then from there it follows the same path. Now over on the throttle side, you can see where the wire comes out, and then I've got it zip tied right here to the brake line. And then it follows that down. And just like on the other side of the bike, there's a metal wire holder right here. So it goes down through that wire holder. And then, this will be hard to see, but right here, this is the ignition. The wire goes just underneath the ignition, and that's where it passes through to the other side. And then from there, where it comes out on the other side, it joins the wires from this side, and it goes through that last little wire holder, and then everything comes out right here. So here's the wire cluster from the controller. Here's the wire from this is the left grip. And then here's the wire from the white grip. So you can see, here's where all the wires come out from the heated grips. And then right here, underneath this heatsink, are these two bullet connectors. And those are the connections for the heated grips. And those are there just from the factory. And just so you can see, right here on the fuse box, you can see there's a circuit just for the grip heater with a 15 amp fuse. So what we're going to do now is connect the power cable, and that's the thing that I put the bullet connectors on. We're going to connect that to the stock bullet connectors to get power, and then we're going to hook up all of these connections. All right, so to start, we're going to get the power cable hooked up. And to do that, all you have to do is connect the male bullet connector from the bike to the female bullet connector on our harness, and then connect the female to the male. All right, once that's hooked up, the rest of this is pretty easy. There's really no way to do it wrong. The power connection, so the one coming from these bullet connectors or from the battery if you're running it straight to the battery, it just has two prongs, and these can only go together one way. And then there are the two connectors for each of the grips, and it doesn't matter which grip connects to each thing. And the grip connections each have 3 wires. And then with each of these connectors, there's a threaded cap that goes over it that just tightens down to keep the whole thing plugged in and waterproof. All right, now what I'm going to do is just bundle these wires up together with a zip tie to keep everything tidy. All right guys, so that basically wraps up the installation. The last thing you want to do is just double check all of your wires, make sure that your throttle can move freely and that the cable doesn't interfere with the brake. Same thing on the clutch side, make sure that there's no interference between the cable and the clutch. And then you want to turn the bars from full lock on one side to full lock on the other side and make sure that none of your cables are binding or getting pinched. And then in terms of this installation, because this is connected to basically a switched power source that turns on and off with the ignition, when you put the key in and turn the bike on, you'll see the controller come on, and it has a memory setting, so it'll remember the last temperature you had it set to. And then from there you can adjust the temperature or turn it off. And if this were connected directly to the battery, the controller has a function that detects when the bike is no longer running. So after you shut the bike off, after a few minutes, this controller will shut off to prevent the grips from draining your battery. But again, on the Ninja 1000, because this is connected to a switched power source, when we turn the key off, this shuts off with the rest of the bike. All right, hopefully that installation video was helpful. Let me know down below if you have any questions. And as always, thanks for watching.